All right, we're going to start letting people in.
Thank you, fellow Zionists, for joining Jewish National Fund USA's weekly briefing. I am Sal Lizagram, president of Jewish National Fund USA. It is day 320 of the war in Israel. After 10 months of briefings, this will be our last formal call. Thank you for being such a devoted, engaged audience, and we hope you have gained real knowledge and benefited from hearing directly from sources on the inside. All of our briefings can be viewed on our YouTube channel, and many are featured on Izzy TV, Israel's premier streaming service. Our first guest today is my good friend Russell Robinson, who lives and breathes Jewish National Fund USA. And he's been doing that as CEO for the organization for the past 26 years. He was on an airplane en route to Israel on October 7th, approaching the Mediterranean shoreline as the barrage of thousands of rockets began. Before any of us could comprehend the scale and scope of the devastation of that day, or fathom that we would be here 320 days later, Russell and our team in Israel had set up a situation room at our Alexander Muss High School in Israel. Russell has returned every month to hear from the people on the ground about their evolving needs and how we can best partner with them. In fact, he's there now. Russell, can you share with us what you are experiencing on your latest trip, from the impact our work has made over the past 10 months and what our next steps are?
Thank you, Saul, and thank you everybody for being on the briefing. And I will just, I'll begin by telling you that if ever you would think about how your investment has made a difference, you have to come, see, feel, and be part of what is happening in Israel. It's an investment from our emergency campaign, but it's also our investment of who we have been as an organization for over 127 years, what we have been as an organization to the people in the North and to the South for over 25 years. And so I'll just give you a quick kind of synopsis of my travels in these literally 3 days. First, to be up north. It is a devastating situation. It is a situation that is a true catastrophe of humanity. You have over 110,000 people who have been evacuated from their homes for almost a year. People who left with 24, 36 hours notice and who are in hotel rooms or in small little places, 4, 5 in a room. The amount of spousal, drug abuse, child abuse, alcohol abuse, the stories that you're hearing from individuals is enormous. It's the stories that isn't being told, and I ask each and every one of you that it's important to tell the story of our people up north. But with its tragedy, with the catastrophe that they face, I'm going to tell you that their hope, that their dreams are connected to our every step that we're going to take with them every single day. They're looking at us, they're hoping, and they're walking with us, because it is not just what is today, but we are giving them the hope of what tomorrow will be. They haven't had an October 7th. And I know that that's very tough to say and somewhat to hear, but their dramatic catastrophe has not been, they just were evacuated from. They don't know if the war has begun or when it's going to end. And just to give you a couple of some vignettes that you could understand, if you told the people of Kiryat Shimona or the people of the north that they could move back home tomorrow, it would take 2 months for them to be able to come back to their homes. I want you to imagine your own home for almost 12 months, no electricity. The refrigerator was never cleaned out. The smell, the deterioration of their homes, rats, mice, bugs. When they move home, you're going to talk about people that are literally going to have to burn mattresses and burn clothes, because that is the only way that they are going to be able to move back home. But we, the Jewish National Fund, are starting an initiative in the next couple of weeks for the people of Israel, not only for our thousands and thousands of volunteers, some I met today who have come to Israel. We're going to be mobilizing 10,000 Israelis to be prepared for the day that they are able to move back home, to come back and volunteer to help clean up their homes, cut their grass, and bring them back home. But we also met with entrepreneurs, many of them who are involved with us in Kiryat Shimona in our startup hub and our food technology. We met with them sitting around the table, and I have to tell you, these are young entrepreneurs, young to me, who have put all of their energy, money, and efforts into their businesses, but they're believing not only in what their business is going to accomplish, but they're waiting because they want to move back and be part of this great ecosystem of the future in the North. Now, I'm going to tell you that the realities are that there's going to be a large percentage who are not going to move back tomorrow. Their children are starting school this September in just 2 weeks, in schools scattered from Eilat to Tiberias. You have children that you know as parents, those who have children, that you cannot just start uprooting them in the middle. So it's a year. Or these are people, for the most part, different than in the OTEF. Many of them were lower economic status, who have already started getting second jobs now in their places in Tel Aviv, Eilat, or Tiberias. And if you're not going to have much, are you going to put your children in harm's way? So you're just going to start a new life in wherever you're at. But we've met with groups of mayors, over 25 mayors from the North, who came together to be part of our reimagined plan and who are looking for us to walk with them every step of the way. For emergency response centers, to fire trucks and fire stations that they're looking for our medical center that we're building in Kiryat Shimona, and they are looking at us and looking at our plan on how are they going to be reimagining the North. But I have to tell you, then you come down to the OTEF. And we built this Build Together plan a week after the war began. And it was a moment in which nobody could even believe, will people even be moving back to the OTEF? There was, to the Israel envelope, there was a belief and a thought from people in Israel as well, that there's no way that that little piece of land, there was no way that people were going to be moving back. But that's not when you're together with the Jewish National Fund. Because I was there at the largest center being built, community center in the entire Eshkol region. It is enormous. It is under construction. And if you see my Facebook, you see even I did a little bit of construction today. And I'm with the people, Halutza, who over in that entire region, in Shar HaNegev, in Eshkol, in Sderot, over 70% of the people, 70, have moved back home. And it's us, the only, since October 7th, a resilience center starting to be out to bid and going to start construction. Us, the Jewish National Fund, from October 7th, an entire sports complex in Shar HaNegev. Us, 2 daycare centers, 7 parks completed, a community center under construction, and so much more, because we are with them every step of the way. Thousands of volunteers who have been there. And today I met with over 30 of our teenagers, that the only reason that there's not 70 is that their flights were canceled. Teenagers who came, and I'm going to tell you stories from the teachers. They worked this week cleaning up the classrooms that over 270 children are coming to school next week. Cleaning up the classroom from the top to the bottom. The teachers came to us and they couldn't believe that these teenagers, not a complaint, worked from morning until night preparing for the other children that they've never met, but children who are part of their soul are going to be coming back to their classroom. And my last meeting was with our friend Ruvik Danilovich, who's going to be with us at our global conference. And if you want to hear the story of hope, the story of belief of tomorrow, the leadership of tomorrow in Israel, you better have signed up for our global conference and be hearing from Ruvik Danilovich, because it is not just about Beersheba. He is given our message that we were there yesterday, we're there today, and the better days for the Jewish people, the better days for the people of Israel are tomorrow, and it goes together with the Jewish National Fund.
So Russell, thank you for all you do on behalf of Jewish National Fund USA. And, the people in Israel are so resistant. They are a great group of people. They want to move back. They feel like if they don't move back, then the opposing team wins. And Lauren and I went on the first JNF volunteer mission right after October 7th, and we heard over and over again from the people who lost everything how the JNF-USA was the first to ask, "What do you need?" Then within 24 hours delivered to these families, no matter where they were evacuated to. JNF found them. So thank you, Russell, and the entire Israel and JNF-USA professional team. It's remarkable, and the people of Israel realize what we're doing. And now I'm privileged to invite all of you to join Russell, Lauren, and me in Israel as part of our We Choose Life Solidarity Mission to Israel, taking place October 6th to the 9th, 2024. While thousands of us have been to Israel in volunteer missions, our We Choose Life mission will give us the opportunity to stand shoulder to shoulder with our family in Israel as we solemnly mark the first anniversary of the October 7th massacre, immersing ourselves in this historic moment of our people's history, while also affirming the resilience and the spirit of the Jewish people to the global community. Our next guest is Hussain Abdul-Hussain. Hussain is a research fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He focuses on the Gulf region and Yemen, including on Gulf relations with Iran and Gulf peace with Israel. Born and raised in Beirut, Baghdad, and Baalbek, cities that have been the theater of major Middle Eastern events. In Washington, Hussain helped set up and manage the Arabic satellite network, Al-Hur Iraq, after which he headed the Washington Bureau of Kuwait Daily Al-Rai. Hussain has written for the New York Times and the Washington Post and in Arabic and various publications. He has appeared on CNN and MSNBC and is a frequent commentator on major Arabic satellite networks. Hussain, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Saul, thank you, JNF, for having me on. I'll pick up from where Russell left, and he was talking about the northern border. I've been so many times to that border, but from the Lebanese side. And over there, it's called the southern border, of course. Over the past few days, we have seen an uptick in military escalation on both sides. Actually, Israel just took out a few rocket depots. Two of them were very close to Baalbek, where I grew up. So this is a war that has been escalating, and this war is very different from the war that Israel have been having with Hamas since October 7. Now, on the southern front, I'd say Israel has pretty much prevailed over Hamas. It's a matter of time that Israel can get to Sinwar. And the reason we know that Hamas and Islamic Jihad have lost is that they promised to switch to suicide bombings, which is dangerous, but which is also an indication that these organizations, as a military militias, are not able to function the way they used to before and on October 7th. So with the south of Israel getting phased out, I think Israeli attention will have to move to the north. Now, what you have to understand in the north is that, number one, Israel has a slam dunk case against Hezbollah. There's at least 2 or 3 UN Security Council resolutions that demand that Hezbollah disarm and that the Lebanese army deploys to the south, and that the two countries live not at peace, but according to the 1949 truce agreement between the two sides. This is in theory, but in practice, Hezbollah has not disarmed. The Lebanese army has not played any role in reining in Hezbollah. And Hezbollah has been living right at the border. Now, if you've been to that border, you would know that there are a few villages on both sides where they're almost window to window or wall to wall. The distance is very close. And after October 7, now we know that fences do not really protect Israelis much. So on October 8th, I think Nasrallah miscalculated, and he thought that when Hamas started that war, he thought that the end of the war would be a truce like the 5 previous rounds between Israel and Hamas. If you remember, on October 7 and October 8, number one, Israel was caught off guard, and number two, it looked as if Hamas was holding territory, and Hamas was putting out statement to the effect that we are rotating our fighters while holding Israeli territory. So the first 24, 48 hours, it looked as if Hamas was winning, and this probably prompted Hezbollah and Nasrallah in Lebanon to start to launch their war on Israel, and they called it the war for the support of Hamas and Gaza. Now, here's the thing. What Nasrallah has done so far is that he's insisted to tie his war to Gaza, meaning that he has pledged to not stop warring with Israel unless there's a deal between Israel and Hamas. Now, this is very bad for Israel and very good for Iran and Hezbollah, because number one, it gives Iran a say over Israeli sovereignty. Whatever Israel does with the Palestinians is none of the business of Lebanon or the Iranians. Number two, if Nasrallah gets what he wants on this, he will get the Palestinian issue out of the hand of the moderate Gulf governments, moderate Arab governments, Egypt and Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Jordan, and this will be exclusively in the hands of Iran and Hezbollah. So this is very tricky, and I've seen that we here in Washington, the Biden administration has committed a few errors by encouraging Israel, saying, look, if you go to a peace deal, to a truce deal, to a ceasefire deal with Hamas, it'll be a 2-for-1. You go for a ceasefire with Hamas, you'll get a ceasefire with both Hezbollah and Hamas. Now, this is very bad for Israel because this actually grants Hezbollah what it wants. It ties Hezbollah to Hamas and Iran to Hamas, and it gives Iran influence and control over the Palestinian issue. Thankfully, so far, Israel has said no and has been countering Hezbollah's war. And if you remember that the last major conflict between the two took place in 2006, 33 days of war, during which Israel did not kill a single prominent Hezbollah commander or politician. Israel, of course, Israel raised down vast territory of Hezbollah, where Hezbollah maintains its troops and installations and where its partisans live. But Israel at the time failed to take out these commanders. Now, since October 8th, Israel has so far taken out 400 Hezbollah commanders. At least 12 of them are from number 2 downwards. That's right after Nasrallah and downwards. The chief of staff of Hezbollah and downwards. So Israel has successfully thinned out the command rank and file of Hezbollah. Israel has also struck at least 4 arms depots, including storage of rockets. So that took out a number of Hezbollah's ammunition. So that also weakens Hezbollah. So what we see is that Israel has been eroding the ability of Hezbollah to fight this war. To my mind, this war is coming. There's no questions about it, because we in America started a mediation effort in which we told Nasrallah, listen, let there be a ceasefire for a ceasefire. You stop shooting, the Israelis will stop shooting, and then in a few months we'll revisit this and we'll see how we can patch things up. And Nasrallah said no. He insisted to connect his war to what's going on in Gaza. That is, he will not stop until there's a ceasefire in Gaza. Now, what I think will happen in Gaza, there will never be a ceasefire. This war will be phased out, as we're seeing now. Think of it in a way similar to how Israel phased out its war, the Operation Defensive Shield at the time in 2002, that it started to bring to an end the second Intifada. So there's no end date for that operation. It just kept on going until the terrorist organizations were weakened enough, were broken, that things just stopped on their own. So this is the same way that this war in Gaza will end. At a certain point, Hamas will be unable to threaten Israel anymore. So the bottom line is that there will be no end date. Sinwar will not dig out and flash his victory sign like he did in the past 5 rounds and said, the war has ended and I'm still here. Israel is not granting Sinwar this honor. So if this is not happening, it means that there's no end date for the Hezbollah war, because Nasrallah clearly insists on tying the two together. Since this is the case, this means that Hezbollah will keep on fighting. If Hezbollah keeps on fighting, as Russell said, 110,000 Israelis from the north can't go back. So this, to my mind, this means that war between the major war between the two sides is inevitable. What happens in the case of war? What will be Israel's goals? It will be different in that Israel will not go after Hezbollah all the way to Beirut. It will not try to decimate Hezbollah the same way it eradicated Hamas in Gaza. What Israel will try to do is that to push Hezbollah fighters enough distance. Now, everyone is thinking of the Litani River, which is 22 miles to the north of the border. The point of pushing these fighters is not to stop the Hezbollah rocket or missile threat against Israel. It's to stop the threat that comes from Hezbollah's anti-tank missiles that they can launch, that their fighters can launch, and with which they can hit civilians, troops, houses. So this is the real threat that Israel will try to push back, with the hope that if there's a major war, Hezbollah will take a lot of losses. This will buy Israel another decade or 2 of calm on the northern border. Now, just keep in mind, this war will be much uglier than the one in Gaza. Hezbollah has much more capabilities. Some say 100,000, 150,000 rockets, including PGMs, the precision-guided missiles. So Hezbollah will be able to give Israel a bloody nose to an extent. But I'm sure Israel will respond on a much bigger scale. And this kind of imbalance between the two sides has played as a deterrent so far for Hezbollah. What we know is that Hezbollah doesn't want to go to a full-scale war. But if what we have now keeps on going, then I see no choices for Israel but to go to war and push Hezbollah north. So this is what I've been watching over the past weeks and months. Over the past 10 months, we've been focused on Gaza. Over the past 6 to 8 weeks, our focus has shifted to the north, south of Lebanon, north of Israel. The situation is very volatile, on the brink of a major war. It's just a question of when Israel is ready to go to this war, and it's a question whether Hezbollah will keep on pushing, or will probably take an off ramp. Many off ramps. The French have offered them off ramps to save face and get out of this. I don't think they'll take it. So this is where we are now. It's not a rosy picture, but it's a war that I think Israel will have to deal with soon.
Well, so thank you so much for joining us, Hussain, and for all the important work you do. And we look forward to having you with us to keep us updated. And as we press pause on these briefings, I must thank you again for joining us over all these months. Your presence have given so many of us strength and community, and your support of Jewish National Fund USA has enabled us to respond almost instantly on that Black Shabbat last October. Thank you for entrusting us to keep you updated and to use your philanthropy to support the land and people of Israel. We have a long road ahead, but Jewish National Fund USA was there yesterday. We are there today, and you can be sure that we will be there tomorrow. As wonderful as it's been to see your virtual faces each week, I'd love nothing more than to see you in person at our global conference for Israel. We have over 1,300 people already signed up, taking place in Dallas between November 14th to 17th, where you can meet many of our guest speakers and all those who have joined us for these important conversations. You can always stay up to date on the impact of your support at jnf.org/support Israel. Our volunteer missions are scheduled from now through February of 2025. You can sign up to volunteer on a 4-day mission, a day trip from Jerusalem, or if you're planning to be in Israel during the high holidays, be sure to join us for our special Sukkot volunteer day trip. All of this can be found online at jnf.org/volunteer-il. As you think about the high holidays, now is a perfect time to support Israel's small businesses in the north by purchasing Rosh Hashanah gifts for loved ones. Visit shop.jnf.org. You can also send a support package to soldiers or evacuee families while supporting Israel's local economy. Finally, as we approach the 1-year anniversary of October 7, you will be able to memorialize those murdered on that tragic day and in the months since with a specially designed commemorative tree certificate and memorial candle. When you purchase a tree certificate, you'll be able to select a name from a list of the fallen civilians and IDF soldiers, infusing the certificate with their memory and legacy. You will then be invited to join a virtual event on October 7th, live streamed from Israel Envelope, and bring light to the world by lighting the memorial candle. Keep an eye on our website, jnf.org. Thank you all again. I look forward to seeing you in person. I'm